The air is heavy with rain that hasn't fallen yet. Brussels, 1985. Late September. The kind of autumn that makes the cobblestones slick and the sky look like bruised metal. The kind that turns umbrellas inside out and patience into powder kegs. The kind that makes the city feel smaller, tighter, like it's holding its breath. A pedestrian crossing near Bois de la Cambre. The light turns green. People begin to cross. An elderly man with a newspaper tucked under his arm folded to the sports section. A woman balancing a briefcase and coffee, already late for something. A father holding his daughter's hand. The girl clutching a stuffed rabbit that has seen better days, one ear hanging by threads, fur matted from too much love. One of them is Jean-Claude Van Damme. He is coming from a meeting with a small production company on Avenue Louise. Another rejection. Another, your accent is too thick, Jean-Claude. Belgian action stars. Americans aren't ready for that. Maybe try theater. Maybe try something else. Another door closed because his name doesn't sound right for Hollywood dreams, because his face doesn't fit the mold they're looking for, because he's from Brussels and not Los Angeles. He walks with his gym bag over his shoulder. Black canvas worn at the corners, stuffed with hand wraps, a towel that needs washing, a water bottle, and dreams that refuse to die. His mind is elsewhere. Los Angeles, maybe. One more audition. One more chance. The phone call he will make tonight to Linda in America, telling her he's still trying, still believing, still refusing to give up. The street smells of fresh bread from the boulangerie on the corner and diesel from the buses grinding past. Autumn leaves, yellow and brown, stick to wet pavement like temporary tattoos. A cafe owner wipes tables outside, preparing for the afternoon customers who will nurse espressos and complain about the weather. The city hums with ordinary life. Ordinary people doing ordinary things until they're not. A sound. Engine roaring, not revving, roaring. The sound of horsepower being punished. Tires squealing against wet cobblestones. Rubber screaming for traction it can't find. A black Mercedes 450 SEL, chrome gleaming even under gray skis. Dark windows hiding whoever thinks they're important enough to hide. The car tears through the red light like a knife through silk, like it owns not just the road but the air above it and the ground below it. It rips across the pedestrian crossing like a predator through a flock of pigeons. The elderly man drops his newspaper and stumbles left, ankle twisting, barely catching himself against a lamp post. The woman spills her coffee, hot liquid splashing across her blouse, briefcase hitting the ground. The father yanks his daughter so hard the stuffed rabbit flies from her hand and lands in a puddle, one ear finally tearing free. Jean-Claude Van Damme does not move. He stands in the center of the crossing, gym bag still on his shoulder, eyes locked on the Mercedes bearing down on him like a black bullet. The bumper stops 15 centimeters from his legs. 15 centimeters between life and death, 15 centimeters between another Tuesday and a funeral. He did not flinch, did not step back, did not even blink. Internal monologue, he could have killed that little girl, that father. And for what? To save 20 seconds, to prove he can afford to ignore red lights. This is not impatience. This is arrogance. Arrogance for every life that isn't inside his expensive car. Contempt for anyone who isn't him. The driver's door flies open, not pushed, kicked. The door swings wide, hinges protesting. A man emerges, big, 190 centimeters, maybe more, shoulders that fill doorways, hands that look like they've never done a day's real work but plenty of real damage. Leather jacket, expensive, designer jeans, the tan of someone who vacations in Ibiza and calls it business, who summers in Monaco and winters in Gstaad. His watch costs more than most people's monthly rent. His shoes cost more than most people's weekly groceries. His name doesn't matter. His type does. The type who has never been told no. Not by parents who gave him everything. Not by teachers who feared his family's lawyers. Not by police who know which calls to ignore. The type who believes money is armor, that wealth is immunity, that consequences are for poor people. The type who sees the world as his private road and everyone in it as obstacles to be removed or warnings to be ignored. He reaches into his jacket, inside pocket, the movement practiced, casual, a knife, switchblade, chrome handle catching what little light the gray sky offers. The click echoes across the wet street, sharp as a bone breaking. This is not for show. This is a tool. The tool of a man who has done this before and walked away clean, who has pressed it against ribs outside nightclubs, against throats in parking garages, against the certainty that he is untouchable. He walks toward Jean-Claude Van Damme. The knife glints in the gray afternoon light. His leather jacket creaks with each step, new enough to still make noise. Gold chain visible at his neck, ring on his right hand, the uniform of a man who mistakes possessions for personality. Move, foreigner. The word cuts through the Brussels air like the knife he's holding. Sharp, designed to wound. Pedestrians freeze. The father pulls his daughter behind a parked Citroen, shielding her eyes but unable to look away himself. The elderly man retreats into a doorway, newspaper forgotten on the wet ground. The woman with the coffee backs away slowly, briefcase clutched to her chest like a shield. You have a death wish. The man is closer now. 3 meters, 2.5. Close enough that Jean-Claude can smell the expensive cologne trying to mask the cigarettes underneath. Close enough to see the bloodshot eyes, the slight tremor in the hand not holding the knife. This man is not sober, probably hasn't been sober in years. Get out of my way. Now, Jean-Claude Van Damme's hands remain at his sides. His gym bag stays on his shoulder. His breathing stays even, his face shows nothing. No fear, no anger, just presence, just awareness. The man stops. 1 meter away, close enough to attack, close enough to be dangerous. The knife rises slightly. A warning, a promise. A threat that has worked 100 times before on 100 different people in 100 different places. You deaf, I said move. Jean-Claude Van Damme looks at him, studies him, then looks past him over his shoulder at the little girl peering from behind the Citroen. 6 years old, maybe 7. Stuffed rabbit soaked in the puddle, one ear torn off, floating separately. Fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that creates nightmares. The kind that makes children afraid of crosswalks for years afterward. You almost killed a child. The words are simple, factual. Spoken in French with the accent of someone who grew up speaking it on these streets. The man blinks. Of all the responses he expected, begging, running, apologizing, pleading, bargaining, this was not one of them. Nobody has spoken to him like this in years, maybe ever. What did you just say to me? Jean-Claude Van Damme's voice is calm, measured. The voice of a man discussing the weather, the football scores, the price of bread. No aggression, no challenge, just truth. A child, right there. You almost killed her. His hands stay at his sides. His eyes stay on the man's face. Now put the knife away. The man laughs. It is the laugh of someone who has never faced consequences, who has paid off police officers with his father's money, settled lawsuits with his family's lawyers, made broken jaws and broken car windows disappear with cash and connections, who sees the athletic young man in front of him, smaller, younger, carrying a gym bag like he just finished teaching aerobics to housewives, and calculates, easy, this will be easy. Put the knife away. He takes another step, 0.5 meter now, close enough that the knife could travel the distance before Jean-Claude could react, or so he thinks. Who the hell do you think you are? The crossing is emptying. The woman with the briefcase is gone, heels clicking rapidly away. The elderly man has disappeared into the cafe, already on the phone, probably calling police who won't arrive for 10 minutes. Only the father and daughter remain, frozen behind the Citroen, watching this scene unfold like it's happening on a screen instead of right in front of them. Jean-Claude Van Damme's hands stay at his sides. His gym bag stays on his shoulder. His face stays calm. Internal monologue. He is used to fear. He has built his entire life on it. He feeds on it the way sharks feed on blood in the water. Every person who has run from him has made him stronger in his own mind. Every flinch has confirmed his power, validated his belief that he is dangerous, that he matters, that he is more than just daddy's money and mother's disappointment. But I will not run. I will not flinch. I will give him nothing to feed on. A child. The man spits onto the wet cobblestones. The gesture is rehearsed, theatrical, borrowed from American movies. You're worried about a child. This is my city, buddy, my street, my rules. You're lucky I stopped it all. Lucky I didn't just run you over and let my lawyers handle it. You ran a red light. You nearly killed people, and now you're holding a weapon. Yeah, I am. The knife rises higher, closer to Jean-Claude's face. The blade is sharp, well-maintained. This is not a prop, and you're still standing in my way. Brussels, 1968. A street in Berchem-Saint-Agathe. Young Jean-Claude, 8 years old, walks beside his father. Eugene van Varenberg is a florist, an accountant, a quiet man who works 14-hour days to feed his family. His hands always smell of soil and roses and numbers. A car horn, sharp, angry, tire screech, rubber burning against asphalt. A black sedan nearly clips them both. Mrs. Eugene by centimeters, Mrs. Young Jean-Claude by less. The driver emerges, a wealthy businessman, suit crisp enough to cut, ring on every finger that matters. The arrogance of old money on his face, generations of wealth that have insulated him from consequence. Watch where you're walking, boy. Stay on the sidewalk where you belong. Eugene says nothing. He takes his son's hand. His grip is tight, too tight. The grip of a man swallowing rage. He steps aside. He nods, a small bow, submission. The businessman laughs, adjusts his cufflinks, gets back in his car, drives away like nothing happened. Because to him nothing did. That night, Jean-Claude cannot sleep. He lies in bed staring at the ceiling, small fists clenched under the blanket. Papa, why did you move? He almost hit us. It was his fault. Eugene sits on the edge of the bed. His hands smell of roses and soil and the day's work. His eyes are tired. The eyes of a man who has swallowed too much pride to count, who has bent too many times, who has learned that survival sometimes means bowing. Because I had no choice, son. He had power, I had none, money, connections, the law on his side even when he's wrong. Sometimes survival means stepping aside. Sometimes you have to bend. I don't want to step aside. I don't want to bend. His father smiles, sad, knowing, the smile of a man who has lost fights before they even started. Then you must become strong enough that you never have to, strong enough that men like that think twice before they come at you, strong enough that they choose to bend instead. Jean-Claude stares at the ceiling, 8 years old, fists clenched under the blanket, making a promise to himself that he won't understand for years but will never forget. I will always have a choice. The man with the knife is closer now. Half a meter. Jean-Claude can smell everything. The cigarettes on his breath. 3 packs a day, maybe 4. The leather of his jacket, expensive but worn in all the wrong places. The cologne, designer, applied too heavily. The fear beneath it all, the desperation. The need to prove something to himself, because there is always fear beneath arrogance, always desperation beneath aggression. That is why men like this need knives, need size, need noise, need victims to confirm that they matter. Last chance, foreigner. Move or I move you. And trust me, you don't want me to move you. Jean-Claude Van Damme looks at him, then past him at the Mercedes gleaming in the rain that has started to fall, chrome mirrors, leather seats visible through the open door. A machine built to announce that its owner is better than everyone else, worth more, matters more, then back at the man. Eye contact, direct, unwavering, I'm not moving. The man's jaw tightens. His knuckles go white on the knife handle, the veins in his neck pulse. His face flushes red. This is not how this was supposed to go. This is not how it always goes. Your funeral. Internal monologue. My father stepped aside because he had no choice. Because he was protecting me, protecting our family, protecting what little we had. But he gave me something that day. He gave me a reason, 20 years of training, 20 years of discipline, karate, kickboxing, ballet, gymnastics, not so I could hurt people, so I could choose when not to. So I would never have to bow. This man thinks the knife gives him power. He is wrong. The knife is a confession that without it, without the car, without the money, he is nothing. And he knows it. That's why his hand is shaking. The man lunges, full commitment, all rage, all desperation, all the frustration of a life spent buying respect instead of earning it. The lunge of someone who has stabbed car tires and bar doors. And once, outside a nightclub in Antwerp, a bouncer who made the mistake of checking his ID. The lunge of someone who has never missed, who has never been stopped. The blade cuts through the September air toward Jean-Claude Van Damme's chest, aimed at the heart. This is not a warning, this is murder. The blade cuts through the air. Full lunge, all violence, all commitment. The lunge of a man who has never been stopped. He is stopped. Jean-Claude Van Damme moves, one step, not backward, not away, sideways, 45 degrees, into the attack, not away from it. The movement is small, economical, precise. No wasted motion. His hand rises from his side, finally, after all this patience, after all this stillness, and catches the man's wrist mid-thrust. The sound is sharp, bone meeting grip, flesh meeting control. The man's momentum stops dead completely, as if he has lunged into a concrete wall, as if his knife has struck iron instead of air. For a moment they are frozen, the man gripping the knife, Jean-Claude gripping his wrist. The September rain falling harder now, darkening the cobblestones. The crossing silent as a grave. Even the traffic seems to have stopped. Even the city seems to be holding its breath. The man's eyes go wide, confusion, then realization, then fear. He pulls, his wrist does not move. He pulls harder, muscles straining, veins bulging in his neck. His face turns crimson, his leather jacket creaks with the effort. His gold chain bounces against his chest. His wrist does not move, not even a millimeter. Internal monologue, he thinks strength is size. He thinks power is noise. He thinks violence is aggression. But I have spent 20 years learning what power really is. It is not the ability to attack. It is the ability to stop, to hold, to control, to choose what happens next. He is learning this now, in this moment, and he doesn't like it. Let go. The man's voice cracks. The first note of real fear. The first time in years he has felt helpless. Let go of my hand. Jean-Claude Van Damme looks at him, studies him the way a doctor studies an X-ray, seeing through the surface, seeing the weakness, the addiction, the emptiness. No. He holds the man's wrist with one hand, just one. The man pulls with everything he has, both hands now trying to free himself, feet braced, body weight committed. It does not matter. The physics have changed. The rules have changed. Everything this man believed about the world, that size wins, that money protects, that rage conquers, that violence always works if you commit to it fully enough, is being rewritten in the space between them. Jean-Claude Van Damme twists, not hard, just precise, just enough. The knife falls to the wet cobblestones with a metallic clatter, chrome handle bouncing once before settling into a puddle. The man stumbles backward, shocked, hand empty, mind racing, reaching automatically for the knife on the ground. Jean-Claude kicks, not at the man, at the car. His right leg chambers, knee rising, then extends. Full power, full speed. 20 years of training compressed into one movement. His foot connects with the driver's side mirror. The sound is a gunshot in the quiet street. Glass explodes. Chrome crumples like paper. Mirror, a 300-franc piece of vanity, a symbol of everything this man believes he is, everything he thinks makes him better, shatters into 100 pieces that scatter across the cobblestones like broken promises, like shattered certainty. The man freezes. His hand hovers over the fallen knife. His mouth hangs open. His brain cannot process what his eyes just saw, cannot reconcile the image of his perfect car, his beautiful Mercedes, his proof of worth damaged, destroyed, by one kick. Jean-Claude Van Damme lowers his foot. He has not broken a sweat. His breathing has not changed. His hair is still perfect. His gym bag is still on his shoulder. That mirror was your face. The words land like stones in water, ripples spreading. Next time it will be. He steps toward the man, one step, small, controlled. The man steps backward, automatic, unconscious. For the first time in his life, he is retreating from someone smaller than him, someone younger, someone without a weapon. The realization hits him like a physical blow. Jean-Claude Van Damme reaches down, picks up the knife from the puddle. Water drips from the chrome handle. The man does not resist, does not move, does not even seem to breathe. Jean-Claude examines the knife. Switchblade, German steel, good craftsmanship, expensive, well-maintained, wasted on someone like this. He closes it with a click, pockets it. The child you almost killed is watching. Jean-Claude nods toward the Citroën. The girl is still there, 6 years old, stuffed rabbit soaked and muddy in her arms, one ear gone forever, eyes wide as saucers, watching everything, recording everything. This moment will live in her memory forever. What do you want her to learn? The man cannot speak. His lips move but no sound comes. His throat has closed. That men with money can do whatever they want. Jean-Claude steps closer. His voice drops, quiet now, more dangerous in its quietness. Or that every action has a consequence, and the next time you run a red light you might meet someone who doesn't stop at mirrors. The man's face is white now. All the color has drained. The tan looks fake now, painted on. The arrogance has evaporated. Only a man remains. A small, scared man in an expensive jacket standing in the wreckage of his certainty. The rain falls harder. Get in your car. Jean-Claude Van Damme's voice is calm, teacher-like, instructive. Drive away, slowly, carefully. Next time you see a red light, remember this moment, remember this feeling, remember what happened when you thought rules didn't apply to you. The man does not argue, does not threaten, does not make promises or excuses. He walks to his Mercedes, opens the door, sits. Hands shaking on the steering wheel, starts the engine. The car pulls away, slowly, so slowly. It stops at the next red light fully, completely. Jean-Claude Van Damme watches until it disappears into the Brussels rain, then adjusts his gym bag on his shoulder. The crossing is quiet again, normal, like nothing happened. Footsteps behind him, quick, urgent. Monsieur, the father. He is holding his daughter's hand. Her stuffed rabbit drips muddy water onto the cobblestones. His eyes are wet and not from the rain. His voice is shaking. Thank you, merci. My daughter was right there. If you hadn't, we could have. Jean-Claude Van Damme shakes his head. I did not do anything special, I just refused to move. The girl tugs at her father's hand. 6 years old, muddy rabbit, one ear gone, eyes that have seen something they will carry forever, something that will define how she sees the world. Monsieur, Jean-Claude kneels, eye level, rain falling on both of them now. Yes. How did you do that? The knife, you caught his hand, the mirror, one kick. Internal monologue, this is why it matters. This is why all of it matters, not the man in the Mercedes. He will forget by next week. He will buy a new mirror and convince himself it was a fluke. But this girl will remember. She will remember that small does not mean weak. That calm does not mean afraid. That one person standing still can stop a car, a knife, a man who thought he was unstoppable. Jean-Claude Van Damme smiles, small, genuine. I practiced for a very long time, every day, for many years. The girl frowns. She wanted a secret, a shortcut, a trick she could learn tomorrow. But weren't you scared? Yes. The girl blinks, surprised. Adults don't usually admit that. Everyone gets scared. Fear is not the problem is what you do with it. You can let it control you, or you can let it sharpen you, make you focused, make you ready. He stands, looks at the father. Your daughter is brave. She did not run. She stayed and watched. That takes courage. He nods to them both, turns. Walks away across the crossing into the September rain. His gym bag on his shoulder. His hands back in his pockets. Just another Tuesday in Brussels. Just another audition to prepare for. Just another dream to chase. Behind him, the father and daughter stand in the rain, watching him go. Years later, that girl would tell the story. In schoolyards, in university cafes, in job interviews when asked about courage, in quiet moments with her own children when they asked what it means to be strong. I was 6 years old. Some man in a Mercedes almost killed me. Ran a red light like it didn't exist. Didn't care. Got out with a knife when someone confronted him. What happened? There was this man, young, maybe 25, athletic, gym bag on his shoulder like he was just coming from training. He just stood there, didn't move, didn't run, didn't even raise his voice. And he caught the man's wrist in midair when he attacked, just stopped him completely. Then kicked his car's mirror off with one shot, just one. The mirror exploded, took the knife like it was nothing. The driver got back in his car and drove away like a scared child. Who was he? I never found out his name, just some young guy, nobody famous, probably just a martial arts teacher or something. But years later, when the girl, now a woman, saw a movie called Bloodsport at a cinema in Brussels, she froze in her seat. That face, those eyes, that absolute stillness before action, she finally knew, and she understood something else, something deeper. The man with the knife thought he had power because he was big, because he was loud, because he had money and weapons and the certainty that the world would bend for him. But real power was standing still with your hands at your sides while the world came at you with a blade. True strength is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to choose when to act, when to wait, and when walking away is the greatest victory of all. Jean-Claude Van Damme walked away that day, but he left something behind. A lesson, a moment, a memory, proof that one person can make a difference. Proof that standing up doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it just means refusing to move.